creatures have survived on Earth for 600 million years. They have struggled through changing conditions and extremes of climate. They survive by knowing when to hide, or run, when to fly, or hunt. Each animal is armed with survival tactics. Some chance to eat rather than be eaten. There are virtually no exceptions to the rules. Survival requires water to drink, food, oxygen, some way to keep warm, and fend off attack. It's all designed to make one thing possible: a new generation, which will in turn struggle to survive. The fight for survival has yielded countless strategies. It's not necessarily the biggest, fastest, or even strongest who survive. It could be the wiliest, like the fox. An old story describes this master of deception. The fox plays dead, and the ploy attracts a flock of hungry birds. But the fox turns the tables, and the would-be predators become the prey. Actually, a fox is more likely to survive thanks to its keen eyes, ears, and nose. And a fox can outrun and outjump a rabbit. For many creatures, life begins as an egg. An eggshell is so tough it can take a serious squeeze at both ends without breaking. It's a survival capsule. The shell protects the new life. Not surprisingly, in most cultures, the egg is a symbol of birth and renewal. Eggs come in a variety of shapes and sizes, including some that are virtually invisible, and they turn up in all sorts of places. They flood ponds, hang on leaves, or get tied to seaweed by a garland of green. Starting life as a hatchling can be perilous, especially for the greenback turtle. The mother first swims across 2,500 miles of ocean in order to lay her eggs and bury them in the sand. She lays the eggs under cover of darkness. But when the baby turtles hatch, it's in broad daylight, because although they can't see the nearby ocean, its bright light tells them which way to scurry. If the egg meant safety, this means danger. Only 1 in 1,000 baby turtles survives to reach the deep ocean. It's a similar struggle on the African plain. Newborn wildebeest face a perilous journey almost from the moment of birth. The calf must first find its breath and then its feet. To survive, it must walk within 5 minutes and run as fast as an adult within a day. That's 40 miles per hour, faster than most human athletes, without much time at training camp. A marsupial baby has an easier ride from birth. A baby kangaroo spends 8 months in its mother's pouch, then another 4 months bouncing along by her side. According to legend, surviving birth may mean trial by fire. In ancient Egypt, the phoenix lived 500 years. It died in a fire, but out of the ashes came a new bird. Just as the sun seemed to be reborn each morning, so the phoenix was a symbol of renewal. Each new generation must learn the strategies of survival. Future hunters must quickly master the attack skills they will need in order to kill their own food. Young chamois practice their prancing because the movements are a good way to deter predators. Gorillas learn to communicate as part of their survival training. Some signals calm tempers, others show who's boss. These foxes are fighting for real. A mother is teaching her young to hunt further afield so they can leave home, the only chance that all may have enough to eat. Food is essential to any creature's survival. Scavengers, like the fox, are always on the lookout for a good meal. They can eat almost anything, fruit, fish, or fowl. Wherever there are humans, there are often foxes. It's no surprise they're featured in the myths and legends of survival. In Japan, the white fox was believed to be the messenger of Inari, the god of crops and wealth. Offerings of soybean and curd were left for the messenger in the hope of pleasing him. A Scottish legend says that a king, Robert the Bruce, learned perseverance from a determined spider. He watched it struggle to build a web and succeed. Inspired, the king left the cave, raised a Scottish army, and led them to defeat the English. Perseverance is the hallmark of all real survivors. Like the spider, the tick is patient. It can wait for up to 3 years for its victims. It's the odor of butyric acid sent out by all mammals that's the signal for a hungry tick. Once gorged with blood, the female drops off and starts searching for a place to nest. Scavenging is an easy option if you're patient. An African vulture may fly 60 miles for a meal. It's sight, not smell, that guides the birds to the flesh. In East Africa, it's said that the spirits of the dead survive and show in the luminous eyes of those that ate them. Feeding is even easier for scavenging sharks, who remember exactly when and where albatross chicks take to the air and water each generation. Many chicks are lost, but those birds that do escape live for up to 30 years, ensuring the survival of the species. For many animals, the means of survival does not just fall into their jaws. Food requires hunting in packs or groups. Harris hawks go after their victims like a team. One sits in wait while others harry the prey. Once they've got it disoriented, this unlucky rabbit doesn't stand a chance. Communal hunting increases the chance of success, but it does mean sharing the spoils. Many hunters can do the job alone. A cheetah sizes up a herd of wildebeest looking for a weak or slow animal. Cheetah can outrun a gazelle, reaching speeds of more than 60 miles per hour, covering 23 feet in a single bound. But it can ill afford a miss. It's a waste of precious energy. Cheetahs hunt with flair, but elusive prey also demonstrate a flair for survival. The fox is famous for its ability to shake off pursuers. In some cultures, legend has it that a fox can transform itself into a beautiful woman. Then only a mirror will reveal the true nature of the beast. Deceit is a common craft in nature. The bolus spider tricks many a male moth by dangling a sticky droplet which smells like a female moth. The ploy means death for the would-be suitor. The snapping turtle is also trained in the art of deception. Its pink tongue seems a juicy worm to a hungry and unlucky fish. A zebra's stripes are likely to confuse. A predator has to look twice or more to spot an individual amidst this display. A fish, too, can try to survive by getting lost in a crowd. A trolling penguin can be a bit baffled by the swarm. A slower mover may develop subtle camouflage. A sloth moves so slowly that algae grows in its fur. With a top speed of just half a mile an hour, the sloth is a success where life is a jungle. Truly remarkable camouflage can be the secret to survival. Things are not always what they seem. And in nature, a good survivor is often a good actor that plays the thing that saves some creatures' lives. Gazelles ham it up. They perform a dance known as stotting. It's meant to convince predators that they're too fit to attack. Some hunters don't seem to buy it. A ringed plover pretends to have a broken wing. The selfless ploy lures predators away from its young. Hermit crabs dress up in some outlandish costumes. A sea anemone makes a great disguise, plus its poisoned tentacles discourage visitors. And acting the part of a snake is a good plan if you're a small and vulnerable caterpillar. Not everything in nature is stage-struck. The tortoise may not be much of an actor, but its permanent costume makes a great defense. The idea of a shell of armor plating was copied by the Roman legions. It helped them survive even as they conquered an empire. Nature was first to design armor, and many a sharp stick as well. A horn shark carries a spiky spine at the base of its fin. Small, but effective. The angel shark's got no stomach for it. Surviving the jaws of a conger eel may call for some huffing and puffing by a pufferfish. It's a fighter and poisonous to boot. The eel lets this balloon full of trouble float away. A hedgehog has its own specialized protective gear. 5,000 needle-sharp spines, and its loose skin lets it roll itself up like a soccer ball wearing spikes. But times change, and an ancient instinct to curl up may not always be the most effective defense against modern foes on modern roads. Bright colors advertise the poison arrow frog. Eat me, the colors read, and you'll be paralyzed or die. The frog's name came about because jungle hunters used the deadly poison to tip their arrows. Charles Darwin was fascinated by the ways animals managed to survive. How would it all come about? As a young man, he traveled the world and ended up at the Tortoise Islands, the Galapagos. Darwin noticed there were giant tortoises that had parasites living under their shells. There were finches who crept underneath and ate the insects. But some finches preferred other food. Looking more closely, Darwin realized that the birds had beaks matched to the kind of food they ate. The conclusions he reached made science history, that over time, each species develops adaptations that make the most of its surroundings. Hummingbirds have adapted to the flowers they feed on. Some have bills long enough to get at nectar no other creature can reach. They can remain perfectly still while hovering, their wings beating 78 times a second. Their wings are so flexible they can fly forwards and backwards. Animal adaptation is the key to long-term survival. There are some places on Earth that have pushed adaptation to the limit. Extreme conditions can lead to extreme solutions. In the deep Canadian winter, the great tree frog survives being frozen in solid ice. It unfreezes in the time it takes the snow to melt, with no ill effects whatsoever. Cold is not necessarily a killer. The Arctic fox has learned how to use the freezing tundra like a freezer. It buries the goose eggs it steals in cold storage. This fox's pelt is so effective it doesn't even start to shiver until the temperature falls to -90 Fahrenheit. Weddell seals survive closer to the South Pole than any other mammal. Many die not from the cold, but because they wear out their teeth sawing holes in the ice. Without teeth, they can't catch food or eat. The largest carnivore on land is equipped to survive in the far north, the Arctic. The polar bear has fur everywhere, except for its nose and foot pads. Females and their young shelter in specially dug ice caves. A similar technique has saved human lives. In 1911, one of the few survivors of Scott's ill-fated Antarctic expedition owed his life to an ice shelter. It saved him at temperatures of -90 Fahrenheit. The human body has its own survival limits. Underwater, we can only survive 3 minutes without air tanks at a depth of 400 feet at most. Lack of oxygen and high pressure mean that the undersea realm is one humans have not yet conquered. Gannets, though creatures of the air, have mastered the underwater life. It's the source of their food supply, fish. Gannets have tapered bodies and long pointed bills. And they have enough time, energy, and air to squabble over a meal underwater. The ocean's depths host fish with monstrous survival skills. Some have huge jaws held open all day and all night. 6 miles deep is the lower limit of animal life, and about 6 miles above sea level is the upper limit. Here, too, there's a shortage of oxygen. Geese can fly as high as a cruising airliner to cross the Himalayas, but they need to increase their breathing rate by as much as 20 times to get enough oxygen. Humans do not survive such altitudes well, not without an airplane around them. In the 16th century, when Mughal warriors invaded Tibet, they were struck by a mysterious illness, extreme sleepiness, and severe headaches. Today we call the illness altitude sickness. Where air is thin and temperatures freezing, the alpine scorpion has developed the same trick as the Canadian gray tree frog. After After a winter trapped in the ice, it comes to life with the warming rays of the sun. Scorpions are among the most successful predators. They thrive in extreme environments, at cold heights and in baking deserts. African deserts are home to a legendary survival specialist, the camel. At temperatures that make a human stop perspiring and pass out, the camel is just starting to sweat. One of the camel's secrets of success is its hump, but it's not a water supply, it's a store of fat. It can be slowly broken down to provide nutrients during a long journey. And a camel really knows how to make the most of a chance for a refill. It can down up to 9 gallons of water without a pause. Where water is scarce in Southwest Africa, the head-standing beetle does just that. When moist air from the ocean meets hot desert air, fogs develop. The beetle simply lets it condense on its legs and body and drip down into its mouth. Foxes can be found in some deserts. The fennec fox's large ears help it cool down, hear its prey, or alert it to danger. Some creatures are inveterate survivors. The cockroach has remained almost unchanged for more than 320 million years, living through asteroids, volcanoes, earthquakes, even nuclear fallout. But sudden change can mean the end of a species. Whatever the exact cause, the dinosaurs succumbed at a time of major change. They probably died out because they were unable to adapt to new conditions quickly enough. The dodo died out when humans came on the scene. A flightless bird it just couldn't escape over hunting. Such specialized creatures can't compare with the adaptable species like rats, which have followed humans wherever they went. The fox survives on its own. Other dogs, descended from wolves, thrive because they became domesticated. Life continues in the most unexpected places. Flamingos survive in hot volcanic soda lakes. Is this the true phoenix, a symbol of resurrection? Here, flamingos live for 50 years or more. They can stand in water which would scald a human and drink liquid that's too hot even for them to stand in. Yet birds are not forced to stay in one region where conditions may not be suitable. They can move to where the conditions are more amenable. They migrate. Their navigational skills seem miraculous. Birds use memorized maps, the sun and stars, the taste of the sea and the sound of waves breaking on distant shores. There is nothing haphazard about migration. When grazing animals exhaust the food supply, they move on to fresh pastures. But with rain and the journey also come threats to survival. In East Africa, 2 million wildebeest move between wet and dry season ranges in a yearly trek. Predators are supplied with plenty of food. some individuals do not survive, the herd will, year in and year out. True survival means survival of the species. Animals must pair up and reproduce. To get a mate, an animal may display the ultimate in feathers or ferocity, in strength or perseverance. Confidence helps, as sometimes thousands of males chase one female. Mating may call for self-sacrifice. The male tarantula risks death at the fangs of the larger, rapacious female. The unstoppable urge to reproduce so that the species will survive makes hares box, larks sing, rifle birds dance, and grebes walk on water. Life's survival plan is very simple. Perform successfully every day, and you will live to reproduce. Then your young will have a chance to do the same, even if it means having to perfect the controlled crash first. When animals produce a new generation, they pass on the key to survival's door. This is the formula. Have a family. Not only makes it all seem worthwhile, but it is true success. Survival not for the moment, but across time.